chaka, hookah, 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 chaka, hookah, 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 chaka, hookah, 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 chaka, hookah, hookah.
Today, if you haven't guessed it, we're talking about
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Okay. So where do we begin on to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
Man, we have to start with that amazing open scene.
Opening scene, yes. The part with...
My man Baby Groot.
No, technically the opening scene was Ego, Kurt Russell's character.
Nobody cares about that. It's all about Groot.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Whatever.
Okay, so they took a CGI young-looking Kurt Russell.
Like they did in Tron for, was it Harrison Ford?
No, that was Jeff Bridges.
Ah, shut up. Nobody cares. Nobody saw that movie anyway. And then they did it for RDJ in Civil War.
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, these keep getting better over time.
Yeah, I mean, it looked very realistic.
I did too. And we also learned that Peter isn't the only great thing to come out of Missouri.
He's from Missouri, so...
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah. But, so after that, we have the opening credits, and then we see 35 years later pop up on screen, and then we go to the opening scene with Baby Groot.
Yes. Baby Groot! Baby Groot! The Grootmeister!
And there's this battle scene going on between the Avengers and
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy, the future Avengers.
This fool's dumb. But anyway, so it's the Guardians of the Galaxy. We all know them. Gamora, Rocket, Baby Groot was there, and Peter.
Star-Lord, Drax. You mentioned Drax.
Oh yeah, I forgot Drax.
Drax.
Everybody loves Drax.
Drax is awesome.
Yeah. And they're fighting this like creature from other dimension, and our loving Guardians of the Galaxy are hired to protect these batteries.
Right.
For the sovereign race.
And but while this battle scene is going on, we see Baby Groot dancing to the song that was playing.
By ELO.
With Baby Groot here dancing.
Yes. And it's funny because like all the other like Guardians get thrown back and like fall, and you see them fall, but the focus is Groot, which I think any other movie this wouldn't have worked.
Right.
But I think especially the way that the director
James Gunn.
I knew his last name was Gunn. James Gunn did it. It was beautiful, and we saw him riding some kind of weird lizard creature.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. I love that scene.
And what's funny is that towards the end of that battle scene, Drax actually I think lands on the music
Speakers.
player, their speakers, and then Groot gets mad at Drax. It was like starts attacking him and stuff.
Yeah.
In his little adorable, little cute way.
Yeah. And man, that was such a beautiful point. I love that part.
Yeah. The story itself has a good family-oriented story.
Right. Especially with Peter and meeting Ego, his father, who saves them from the sovereign race, because the sovereign race is trying to destroy them. Because Rocket stole some of their, was it batteries? Or
stole batteries.
Yeah, and they're worth like a ton on the black market or something.
Right.
And
on the black market.
Shut up. All right, the space black market.
Yeah, whatever.
The space market.
Okay.
And so, like, the sovereign race is trying to get those back, and like they go through like this big like crater field, and it was just awesome. Not crater field, asteroid field.
Yeah.
And like some of them get blown up, and a part I really loved during that is when Peter, he was steering the ship, and he's like, and Drax says something like, "We can't go through there. Only the best pilot can get us through there." And Peter's like, "Well, lucky for you, we have." And then Rocket comes in. Is like, "I'm the best pilot," and takes over and starts steering it.
There was a little fight there between Peter and Rocket on whether or not who was the best pilot.
Yeah, that was probably one of the better moments in the movie for me.
Yeah.
I really love that, and I loved how they like kind of fought throughout the whole entire movie. But anyway, so like there's like a ton of like the Sovereign Race ships coming after him.
Right.
And then Ego shows up in some big white starship, looks like a big tube, and he just annihilates all of them. Just kills them all in one
Yeah.
blow.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
And the Guardians look at each other like, who was that?
Yeah, and then Rocket's like, it was a little man that saved us.
Yeah, yeah. And then Peter's like, so you're saying a little 2-inch man saved us?
And Rocket was like, well, he'd probably be bigger if he was up close.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and then they crash. Well, yeah. They do. They crash land on his planet.
Been hurt.
Yeah, and
I'm a nerd.
yeah, and then later the 2-inch man shows up, and then Drax exclaims, "Oh look, it's a 2-inch man!"
And that 2-inch man come to find out is Ego,
Ego,
the living planets. And he's accompanied by his friend, or I guess they were friends.
It's really like a companion, because like she helps him.
Yeah, Sleep.
Yeah, sleep
And
and stuff.
her name was Mantis,
Mantis.
which I really like the CGI effects, because if you look, you can see like she's wearing some kind of mask.
Yeah.
And it had like the beginning of the antennas on there, and then the rest of it was CGI'd on
Right.
there.
Right.
Which I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love technology today. And so we see a very bearded Kurt Russell.
Yes.
He comes out, and like Peter's like, or Star-Lord is like, who are you? And he's like, well, I figured with those great looks you would recognize me. I'm your father. And just that delivery was just like awesome to me.
Actually, he says, "I'm your dad, Peter," but I mean, it's the same thing, same thing.
Don't judge me. So Ego comes, saves the day, introduces himself, and he's like, hey, y'all can come back to my planet with me, you know? And he's like, you can leave the raccoon and the Baby Groot here.
Raccoon.
Yeah.
It's raccoon. I mean, you can say raccoon if you want to.
I'm sorry, I guess
Go
I
ahead.
speak different.
Raccoon.
So he said you can leave the raccoon in Baby Groot. And, well, Rocket didn't really want to go. So he was going to stay and work on the ship while they all left. And it was just going to be for a couple of days. And so Drax, Gamora, they take Nebula. Wait, no, they don't take Nebula. Nebula is captured and she's still on the ship with Rocket.
Right,
They get attacked.
right, because they don't trust her.
Yeah. So it's Gamora, Drax, and Peter. Is that it?
Yeah.
And Mantis and Ego.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 5 of them go back to Ego's planet, and Rocket and Groot and Nebula is still back at the spaceship on Ben-Hur. Nebula is tied up in the ship because she is a prisoner, and they do not trust her.
Right.
And during one of the nights that Rocket, Groot, and Nebula is there, they get attacked.
Right. By the Ravagers.
Correct. Rocket has like these bombs set up,
Yeah.
and they step.
That was a really cool scene.
That was cool.
I haven't talked about that before, but that's a really cool scene.
And Rocket like has all these like little mines and stuff, and they step on them, and people are blowing up, and I mean not graphically, but I mean they're getting shot in different places, and
Yeah.
Rocket's throwing bombs at people. It's just great.
Right.
And excuse me. And then and then Rocket thinks he killed everybody or knocked them out or whatever, and then he sees one guy or 2 guys and he knocks them out, and then he gets surrounded by some other guys, and Kraglin's there,
Kraglin. Yeah.
Taserface is there, and Yondu. Those are like the 3 that are mostly
Yeah.
named in there.
Well, there was the other members too, but those are the main ones that people actually know.
Yeah.
It's the one that's mentioned. So Nebula convinces Baby Groot to release her, and then Nebula shoots something out, and
It's like a stun gun.
Yeah,
cannon
and it
thing.
comes and it destroys his little mohawk thing that he has. And after that, it begins a rebellion against Yondu, which was actually started by Kraglin, Yondu's number 2.
Which I don't think Kraglin meant for a
No, he did
true
not.
full-scale rebellion.
He didn't.
Because I think he was just trying to say, hey guys, I think, we should... Yondu, you've had a great run, man, but I think somebody else should step to the
Right.
plate.
That's exactly what it was.
And then Nebula comes in, shoots Yondu's fin off,
Yeah.
and pretty much like Yondu pretty much just goes silently then.
So
I mean,
after this rebellion, the Ravagers take Rocket, Baby Groot here, and Nebula, and Yondu as prisoners on their ship.
and then it goes and it shows on that ship where all the people that were with Yondu get shot off into space. So pretty much to die.
Yeah, that was a very gruesome scene. I mean, that wasn't gruesome, but like seeing all those.
It was kind of intense.
Yeah, I used to seeing all those dead Ravagers was.
Yeah, and then that scene they actually show like them dragging one to the compartment.
Right.
And they like put him in there, and you see the door come down. It's like a prison
And
door.
then we watched that character die.
Yeah, and then they like you see him just press the button and whoop, there he goes.
Yeah.
And he kind of like fighting for a minute, and then he just stops.
Now we can talk about your boy Taserface.
My boy Taserface.
Okay, so Taserface is trying his hardest to be intimidating. He's talking to
And trying to be the leader of the Ravagers.
right. Yeah, he is the leader of Ravagers right now.
I'm sorry.
He is trying to be intimidating, and he's talking to Rocket Raccoon and
Raccoon.
actually he was talking to Baby Groot at the time, and then after and he says his name was Taserface.
Yeah, they have Baby Groot in like a bird cage.
Yeah, and a little bird cage.
and then one guy's like, "What are we gonna do with him?" He's like, "Oh, he's too cute to kill."
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, "That is beautiful."
Yes.
Because you can't kill Groot.
So, and then Rocket overhears Taserface saying his name.
It's Taserface.
And he came up with all these different insults. I don't remember the insults, but
He asked him like, "Can you shoot tasers from your face?" And he's like, "No."
yeah. And that scene goes on for like a good, probably minute long. Just all
That's
these
it.
insults.
I would say so,
I mean, it felt pretty long.
but it was worth it.
Yeah. Long in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
So let's talk about Nebula for a moment.
Nebula.
Which Nebula was actually Amy Pond from Doctor Who, for you nerds out there that would know that. But anyways, and I'm not going over the movie, but she had a fight with her sister Gamora.
On the planet Ego.
Oh, while we're on the subject of that, whenever the Guardians go to the Sovereign Planet, it was kind of a humorous moment when Nebula comes out, and this is the first time we saw her in the movie so far, and there's Gamora there, and Star-Lord's like, family reunion, yay! That was kind of a humorous part. But, So Nebula convinces the Ravagers to let her go. I believe with money. There was money involved.
I forget. To be honest, I forget the true
I forget
reason.
the details.
I just
but-
remember that Kragan takes her to their fastest ship,
Right.
which I believe was Yondu's ship.
Yeah.
Like, was actually Yondu's like personal ship.
There was a humorous scene where Kraglin is asking Nebula, "So what are you gonna do with your money?" And she says, "I'm gonna find my sister, and then I'm gonna kill her. And after I do that, this big old long spill." And then Kraglin is just like, "Yeah, I was just asking you if maybe you wanna get some new jewelry or something." You know, that was kind of a humorous scene there.
Yeah, Kraglin didn't expect her to be like, "I'm gonna murder
Yeah.
my sister and then go after my dad Thanos."
Yeah.
But I gotta say one thing about Nebula that like amazed me is like is like how they were able to make her. like how she looks.
Yeah.
Because she's half robot, half human.
Yeah.
And they talk about later how like Thanos will like rip her apart for. I don't remember the reason.
Yeah.
Do you? Was it for? Oh, it's because she kept losing to Gamora in fights. Remember?
Right.
Yeah. So Thanos would keep ripping pieces off of Nebula, and they'd be replaced with like robots. Kind of real Anakin moment. And I just found it awesome, like how they're able like to make that like, because I bet that took forever, like to sit there and let them put all that on. And it looks so real. Yeah. And I just thought that was like really cool.
It really adds to Nebula's character because
oh, that's good.
One thing that they added to it is how Nebula is jealous of Gamora. That's why Nebula wants to kill Gamora.
Right.
And Gamora, she's not a created character or nothing like that. So like it really, you really feel for Nebula.
Right.
So there's a scene where a Nebula is attacking Gamora, and it's like a fight to the death kind of thing.
Yeah, and Nebula, like Gamora's just out like in a field, and Gamora just like comes down this ship and just starts like boom, 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 just spray, like just like spraying her, and of course Gamora like falls down this big cliff and she like survives, and like Nebula, I don't know if she noticed this or not, but Gamora's like running into like this cave.
Yeah.
And Nebula's just like in this ship, just shooting, like trying to get her, and she runs into the cave.
Right.
And so she's like stuff's breaking off the ship, and she's just spinning, and like she's just still shooting. Like I don't know if it like really clicked that she like crashed into the cave.
Yeah.
Because she was so like dead focused.
Right.
But. And then they fight for like Gamora saves Nebula from blowing up in the ship because Nebula gets trapped, and then they have this big fight scene.
Yeah.
And to me,
yeah,
like that scene to me took way too long. It took too much time than what it needed to.
But I think it had a good ending for it because at the end. They finally realized that they're sisters and that they need to be there for each other instead of fighting. So it had a good
But still, I mean, I don't think they needed to drag it on.
Right.
It felt like they had like 15 minutes in the movie that like we have to put something here.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh okay, and just put that right there. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it felt kind of unnecessary to do all that.
Because I mean, they could have made it like 5 minutes long, and it would have been like, okay, cool, I understand that. That's great. But, because the main focus to me was this movie was Star-Lord and Ego.
Right.
And, I mean, you get a lot of time where it's Ego and Star-Lord and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But to me, that's what I wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to see more of, was Ego and Star-Lord. That's just my opinion on it.
So while we're on the subject, let's talk about Ego and Star-Lord.
Sweet.
So there is a moment where Ego is explaining to Star-Lord about his powers.
Oh yes, his inner powers.
The powers that he possesses. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it like he only has these powers while he's on this planet?
No. As long as there's light in the core of the planet, as there's energy in the core of the planet, he has his powers.
Right. Okay. So Ego tells Star-Lord about his powers. So Star-Lord creates this little ball of energy, and so there's this like beautiful scene where Ego and Star-Lord are playing ball, and I think that's a beautiful scene because it represents like Ego being a father to him, like all those years of not knowing him, and it was just like a beautiful moment to see them play catch together.
I can agree with that. I mean, there's not too many moments in this movie where you're like, oh, that like really touched me. And I feel like this was one of the moments that actually kind of like touched me a little bit. Because it's cool to have all the action and the fighting and the bickering and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's also good to slow down for a minute and be like, hey, we're gonna have this very beautiful like what was it? It was probably like what 2-3 minutes long. I mean, it wasn't long at all.
No.
But
It's probably only like 1 minute, to be honest. But it felt like a good amount of time.
It felt like a good amount of time.
Right.
Like it didn't feel like it was too long. And it didn't feel like it was too short. It felt like
Right.
it was just perfect.
And on the subject of moments, there's a moment that is shared between Rocket and Yondu.
Yes.
Yes.
Another very powerful moment.
Yes, because Rocket is just being Rocket. You know, he's insulting and you know, he's just all this. And then Yondu is like, you know, I know exactly who you are. Because Rocket says, you don't even know who I am. And Rocket says, I know exactly who you are. And then what exactly does Yondu say in his description?
He like goes off and saying that, you know, this is paraphrasing, of course.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, you know, I was a scared little boy too. You know, I pushed everybody that loved me away, like, cause you know, I was afraid for people to get close, cause all I do is hurt them and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, again, that was like a real emotional scene.
Yeah,
because
really
I feel like, I mean, not only me, but I feel like a lot of people can, like, agree with that.
Yeah.
And I have like gone through that with somebody or whatever, because everybody knows that guy.
Yeah. So there's some great character development between Rocket and Yondu, because Yondu makes the statement, "I know who you are because I am you." Because like they're related in the way that they
In their actions.
yeah, in the way that they react to the world.
Which, like I said, that was another.
Yeah.
Like this movie, like other than like even more than the first one, had more like touching moments.
I will say that.
Like the first movie, like the intro was like, oh my god, like like this is
That
like,
was a devastating ending. Watching Peter's mother pass away.
I know, like in the first like 10 minutes, I was like, oh,
he lost his mom.
I know, and then like he gets sucked up by a ship out in the like. I was like, man, this movie's gonna be dark and depressing.
While we're on the subject, we have to discuss
Oh man.
when Ego tells Star-Lord, Peter Quill, that he is the one who killed Peter's mother. Oh my goodness.
I feel like, and Victor, you were there with me when we watched the movie.
Right.
I feel like I leaned, like I went to the edge of my seat and I went, oh, and I was just like, no.
Yeah, it was a big reveal. It was like, oh my goodness. It was like, I can't believe you just said that.
I know, cause I feel like there was a lot of people and there was like, oh, like,
and he said it in such a confident manner, like he didn't even think it was a big deal.
I know, because to me it sounded like, well, it sucks I had to kill her. I mean,
that's,
it sucks I had to give her that brain tumor.
Yeah, that's basically how he said it.
Especially after like the beginning where it shows them like driving in the car and they're like singing and having a good time, and then another point in the movie, Peter Quill's like on a couch. Mm-hmm. In like the big mansion on Ego's planet, and he's listening to a song called Brandy, and like, you know, Ego walks in and he's like, oh, you know, your mom used to sing that song all the time. That was one of her favorite songs. And you know, like he was talking about how he was this in the song and she was that and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's like oh, like, you know, like Ego actually loved her.
Yeah. And that actually is true, because he says that he visited her 3 times, and if he had visited her 4th time,
he would have stayed.
He would have never left.
Which I was like, wow.
Which that was his reasoning for killing her.
Yeah, it was crazy, because, and then like after that, like we find out that like that Ego went to all these other planets, and had kids on all these other planets because he was trying to have a kid that had his exact powers too, and only Star-Lord was the one that had the same powers. And in the cave that we referenced earlier, Gamora comes across all these bones, like mountain of bones, and she brings it up, and that's. Oh wait, did she bring it up, or did we just find out later that he just killed all his kids? I don't remember.
I think it's kind of implied.
Okay.
Because while they're exploring the planet, the other people are exploring the planet. They discover this big old pile of bones.
Mountain of bones.
And I believe we're led to believe that those are the other siblings of Peter that he has killed.
Because they didn't have his power.
Right.
But, and the whole thing why Ego was trying to have another kid is that he's trying to, like, what was it, wipe out everything and make everything like him.
Yeah, because if he can possess all these different planets, he can live forever.
Yeah.
And he was trying to do the same thing for Peter.
Yeah, and he couldn't do it. And there was a line in there where he was like, I can't do it on my own. I have to have someone else that has my powers too, or something like that to complete it.
Right.
And that's why he was trying to have so many kids, and Peter was the only one.
Yeah, and Ego makes a statement that he heard news of Peter being able to touch this Infinity Stone and not be able to die. So he knew that must have been his son.
At the end of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right,
1.
right.
Which, I mean, in my opinion, this movie, like, the plot was not as good as the first one. Because I felt like the first one was like, hey, we're going to steal some stuff.
Yeah.
And then, like, we find out, like, oh man, this has, like, real power.
Right.
We should get this to, was it the Nova Corps?
Yeah.
The Nova Corps. And like we should keep this out of, like, bad guys. And this movie was just like, hey guys, let's have some fun. Let's go to this planet and, like, well, of course they stole stuff. They stole the batteries.
Yeah.
But to me, it just felt like this was, like, very fast and loose.
Yeah.
Like, this thing could just change whichever way the wind blows. When the first one was, like, very...
If you're looking for a good plot, the first one is better. But I would say the second movie is more entertaining. There was more funny moments. There was more heartfelt moments. As far as moments go, the second one's better. But the first one, in my opinion, and I think Nick shares that same opinion, the plot is much better than the first one.
Yes. And it does not make you cry in the first 10 minutes.
Correct. Now, later on in the movie, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially when he was like, I killed your mom. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, and we didn't talk about how Peter reacted to this.
Oh, yeah. So Peter was like, I'm going to kill you. And then, like he tries to fight him, and, like, with the...
He was shooting lasers straight at him.
Oh, yeah, he has, like, laser guns.
Yeah.
And they look like just two Ds. They look like a D and a D. Just
yeah. And then he was like, who do you think you are?
And then he, like... Ego, like, impales Star-Lord with, like, this beam of the power.
Right.
I almost want to call it the Force.
That's a different franchise.
I know, but I mean, he pretty much, like, stabs him through the chest with the power of the planet, and it comes through all these other areas, and he pretty much, like, Ego's just taking the power out of Peter. He's using him as a Energizer battery, just taking the power.
Yeah. In this same scene, I believe it's the same scene, there is a cameo by David Hasselhoff.
Yes.
And, okay, let me talk about this, and then we'll talk about more about David Hasselhoff. There's a scene where, I believe it's after Star-Lord shoots him, where Ego's like, well, maybe you'll like me better in this form, and he turns into David Hasselhoff. So there's a cameo of David Hasselhoff. So while we're on the subject of David Hasselhoff, there are many references to David Hasselhoff in this movie, and apparently Peter has a picture of David Hasselhoff in his wallet that he carries around, and he tells people that his father is David Hasselhoff, and that he is filming Knight Rider.
That he was always gone.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, because he's always gone because he was either filming Knight Rider or he was doing concerts in Europe.
While we're on the subject of David Hasselhoff and singing, he actually does a song for the soundtrack. It's actually the very last song played in the closing credits. And then, like, as it's going up, you can actually see David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
You see him, like, talking, like, the words. He's not really singing. It's more of, like, he's just narrating stuff, talking. He's not really singing, though. We have to rewind, talk about Drax.
Drax the Destroyer.
Drax the Destroyer.
Who doesn't do a lot of destroying.
No, he was the comic relief in this movie.
Yes.
Which works.
Him and Groot are the funny ones.
Yeah. Well,
Rocket is the one that, like, takes everything, like, ready to fight everybody. Drax The Destroyer.
Drax and Mantis have a romance going on, but Drax is not a romantic person. So there's a line in the movie whenever he's having a moment with Mantis, and he tells her that she is hideous.
Yes.
And then Mantis is taken back like, hideous? Oh no. But and then he corrects himself and is like, oh no, hideous in a good way.
Good thing.
Because being hideous, that means that someone actually cares about you if they actually do love you.
And she's like, oh.
Yeah, so they kind of share a moment.
Yeah, and then kind of find out later, because she kind of plays dumb during a lot of this. Like, they'd say something and she'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. And then come to find out later, like, she gets mad at Drax when he says something, and she's like, I'm not a fool. Like, I understood, like, what you were saying the whole time.
Right.
And he's like, you were?
Yeah.
She's like, I know what disgusting means.
Mm-hmm. So, at the very end of the movie, not at the very end, but close to the end of the movie, Mantis says that something looks beautiful, which we'll get to exactly what that scene was in a moment. But, and then Drax says, just like you. And then there's a pause, and he says, you are beautiful on the inside. And it's like it turns like a beautiful moment into a humorous moment, and there's so many moments like this in the movie.
We see why Drax is single.
Pretty much. Well, he's single because
his wife died.
Thanos killed his.
No, Roman. Roman killed his family.
Ronan, yeah.
Is it Ronan or Roman?
Ronan.
Ronan.
Well, with an N. You should know that.
Ronan of Rin.
Okay, and everyone knows about even if you haven't seen the movie, you know about the do me.
Yeah.
Because they played it a lot in the movie.
Because Mantis has this power where she can like touch somebody and she can tell what they're feeling, and she can mess with their emotions. Like if they're feeling sad, she can make them feel happy and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And and she touches Peter and she's like, well, you're in love.
You have feelings for her, and points to Gamora.
And then she says something else. What was it? Romantic feelings? Or?
Yeah. And then Drax like, you just told us deepest darkest secret.
Do me.
And then do you remember what his thing was? Because Mantis actually does touch him, and
she doesn't say.
Right.
I don't believe she says. Because I believe she like touches him and she's like, oh, like she sees something.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's what happens.
Yeah. But okay, so they defeat Ego, going to a different subject, and so Peter realizes that he can turn certain things into whatever. So there's a scene. I think you know where I'm going with this.
I do.
Where
Waka Waka.
Peter forms Pac-Man. So he basically destroys his dad with Pac-Man.
And his dad like become like this big like armored dude. Like all my DC friends will know Ares. He kind of become like looks like Ares, like a gold Ares. And then like here comes like Peter riding Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Waka Waka Waka.
Waka waka waka. Oh. Great 80s reference.
Yes.
Great 80s reference.
Like this movie is full of 80s references.
Yes.
So if you love the 80s, you will love this movie.
Exactly. So we have to discuss. Okay. First of all, Baby Groot had his redeeming moment. Because if you watch the movie trailer or seen the movie, you know that funny scene where Rocket is explaining to Groot which button to press.
Right.
And at the end of the movie, Groot had to press this certain button to destroy Ego. And then we see him do the combination that he needed to do, and then he had his finger over the wrong button, and then he switched it and did the right one. So Baby Groot had his redeeming moment. So
Yes.
Ego is destroyed now.
Which it was a very cool fight scene.
Right.
Because who all was there? There was, of course, the Guardians.
Right.
With Yondu. And there was were the Ravengers there or just Nebula?
I know Nebula was there.
I know the Sovereign Race showed up,
Yeah, they did Sovereign Race show.
but I don't remember. No,
Kraglin?
Kraglin was there.
Right. Kraglin is basically in this scene part of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be the same thing in the rest of the movies, but at least for this part, he was part of the Guardians. Yondu.
Yes.
Yondu. There is so much to cover with him. So, while we talked about this earlier, while Yondu is in jail, they try to think of a plan to get out. So Yondu asks Baby Groot to grab some. Okay, earlier we mentioned that Groot was in a cage. They let him out for some reason.
He was in a straitjacket. They were trying to see if he could get out of a straitjacket.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of like a convenient plot point. Oh, Groot just happened to be free to be able to. Anyways,
It happens.
it happens. It was convenient.
Happens to the best of us.
It was convenient. It was convenient to the plot.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Yondu asks Baby Groot to grab a certain item out of a drawer of his, which was his mohawk that
Was shot off previously by Nebula earlier in the movie. But there was something special about this mohawk.
yes, and that is because it is the exact one that he has in the comics, which is great for comic book fans to geek out about. So in this process, Baby Groot doesn't fully understand because he's a baby right now what exactly Yondu is asking for. So he just grabs random items from the drawer and grabbing the wrong one over and over. This happens like 3 or 4 times.
Which, again, for me, this was a point that was kind of drawn out a little bit too
I
much.
thought the same thing.
Because, he goes and grabs, 4 or 5 different things.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny.
Yeah.
Like the first couple of times. After a while, it's like, okay, we get it. He's grabbing the wrong thing.
Yeah. And, probably the funniest was when he grabbed the desk.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was funny.
He was pulling like a whole desk.
And the point was he was trying to be quiet because, all the other Ravengers were asleep.
Yeah.
And all you hear is just this desk, just screeching across the floor.
Right, that was pretty funny.
But, yeah, I mean, if they would have just kept it to, 2 or 3 things and then moved on.
Yeah, it was too long. But then Kraglin figures out what Baby Groot is doing and is like, no, that's the wrong one. This is what it is. And then helps him out. And then Kraglin ends up helping them escape.
Right, because Kraglin is still loyal to Yondu.
Right.
And like we said, yes, he started the rebellion, but it wasn't his intention for everything else that happened. He started the fire and then somebody threw gas on it pretty much.
So basically, at this point, Kraglin figures out what he did wrong and apologizes to him and is like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause a rebellion.
Can I serve you?
Basically. And this is a point where, I mentioned it earlier, where Kraglin becomes part of the, temporarily at least, for the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this is a very important part because during the time that Peter, whenever they finally meet up again, we have a confrontation between Yondu and Peter, Yondu and Peter, and they have a moment where Yondu tells Peter that he may have been your father, but I'm your daddy.
So after Baby Groot hits the bomb, the button on the bomb, they have 5 minutes to get out.
Right.
And so, Groot, Rocket, Gamora, Nebula, and Kraglin all get out. Kraglin drives the ship in. They all get on the ship and leave. And Yondu will not leave because Peter is still fighting Ego at this point. And so Yondu wants to stay and help Peter. and Rocket gives him. He has one suit and one breathing thing for space.
Yeah.
And so Yondu's like, I'm gonna help Peter. They work together. They the bomb blows up. Ego is pretty much destroyed. The planet's destroyed, and Peter and Yondu are kind of like shot off into space a little bit. They take off, but it's kind of just an explosion. And so Yondu puts the breathing field, I guess.
Yeah.
Breathing cloak.
I don't know.
The cloak of breathing around around Peter. So Yondu sacrifices himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
To save Peter.
Because leading up to this scene, I think Kraglin was trying to talk him out of it.
Right.
And Yondu was like, I haven't done anything good in my life. Let me do this.
Right.
And then Kraglin's like, okay.
Because Kraglin knew that someone had to die to destroy Ego.
Yeah. And really, Peter figured out too late how close he was to Yondu. After seeing his real father pass away, he was like, oh wait, Yondu's been my dad this whole time.
And kind of stepping back for a minute, we kind of get some foreshadowing earlier in the movie that Yondu was going to die. Or I did. I saw some foreshadowing. It's when he's talking to Stark Ogard, and it's the first time we see Yondu. And Stark Ogard is saying like how he betrayed the Ravengers because he stole kids and all that kind of stuff, which we come to find out later are the children of Ego.
Yeah.
But he's saying that like how when Yondu dies, that he will not get a Ravenger burial. So to me, I was like, Yondu's gonna die. Which I knew kind of like this movie, someone was gonna die.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can't go on forever with the same team. Some people have to be lost and some people have to be gained. Like I knew that was coming, but I never knew who it would be. I thought it'd be like a minor character.
The Sovereign race reached out to the Ravagers and told them what Yondu did, and then the Ravagers felt like Yondu redeemed himself, and so he got a proper Ravager funeral.
Yeah, and so what that entailed that, like, all the Ravengers showed up at the end and shot fireworks, which I gotta admit was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause I don't know how you shoot fireworks off in space.
Yes, and going back earlier when I mentioned Mantis and Drax, Mantis was mentioning how beautiful it was, and that's when Drax says, "You're beautiful on the inside."
And that's when she's like, "I'm not done."
So. And that's basically how it ends. So now we're going to talk about post-credit scenes.
Yes!
And what that means for the future.
And, I think this is a record.
Yeah.
I think they had 5 post-credit scenes.
5 post-credit scenes.
I think that's a Marvel record.
I would say it is.
The scene in the movie is Yondu, like, he's in, like, a coffin type deal, and they put, like, medals on him. And Star-Lord gives Kraglin one of Yondu's arrow.
Right.
Which was broke previously earlier in the movie, and Rocket fixed it, and he gave it to him for a gift.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Which leads into this, is that we see Kraglin experimenting with the arrows, and he's doing the whistle thing, and the arrow keeps going up and then falling straight to the ground, and then eventually he kind of figures it out, and it ends up stabbing Drax in the neck, and you see Drax going, oh!
Yeah, all you hear from around the corner is just, ah!
Yeah.
But, he had the fin on and everything.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
He had the fin. And then
the second one was, we get to see Teenage Groot.
Yes, Teenage Groot.
Snot-nosed punk Groot.
So we see Groot. He's sitting there,
sitting on his bed playing video games.
Yeah, he's playing video games, and then Star-Lord comes in, and it was like, "Come on, Groot, you gotta pick up your stuff, man." And he's like, "I am Groot," but in a teenage voice instead of the baby Groot voice.
He's like, "Get away from me."
I am Groot. All that stuff.
And so That was just comedic. I mean, there was no like Easter eggs.
I mean,
in there.
it kind of does because it lets you know that in the future movies that he's not gonna be a baby anymore.
Oh yeah.
But one of the post-credit scenes is the original team for the Guardians of the Galaxy get together.
Going back to the comics, people.
Yes, that is correct. And that
Tell them who's in the team.
okay is Stacker Ogard.
Are better known as Starhawk.
That is correct.
I love
If you
Starhawk.
know Stacker Ogard from the comics, you know that his superhero name is Starhawk, which we saw him earlier whenever he was, saying that he was disappointed in Yondu, and he saw the redemption, which led to him wanting to get the team back together.
And you can tell you what my favorite thing was?
What is that?
He was played by Rocky.
Yes.
He's played by Sly.
Yes. I am the law.
I am the law.
Okay. So we also have, of course, Yondu passes away. So he was part of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. We also have Mainframe, which I'm led to believe is like the space version of Vision, which is, in this movie is actually voiced by Miley Cyrus, which I thought was kind of weird. I don't know if that's going to be the case in the future movies.
Like the singer Miley Cyrus?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah. IMDb people. Yeah. So I think in the comics it's actually a male character, but in this one it's female. And then man by Miley Cyrus. And Charlie 27, which was played by Ving Rhames. You know him from Mission Impossible movies. Charlie 27. That's gonna be awesome. Martin X.
Played by Michael Rosenbaum.
Yes, Luther from Smallville.
Getting some good old comic people in here.
That's right. That's right.
You know, he's one of the few that's done a crossover.
Yeah.
He's done a Marvel and a DC.
Well, that actually happens pretty often. Actually, these roles gonna be.
Because I mean, I can only think of Chris Evans.
There's more examples than that, but I'm gonna move on. He's probably the most well known that's done it. But anyways, and then Alita Ogard, which is Starhawk's wife, played by Michelle Yeoh. I guess that's how you pronounce it. But that is the original team of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they gathered all together, and they're gonna form a team. Which I don't imagine that they're gonna be in Infinity War, but they're most likely gonna be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So look forward to that.
And then one of my favorites. Can I say it?
Go ahead.
Adam Warlock.
Yes.
Adam Warlock.
Yes. Explain the scene to him.
Oh yes. So in one of the post-credit scenes, you'll see Aisha, who is the leader of the Sovereign race, and like she's sitting somewhere, she's looking defeated, and she's talking to somebody, and then she says something that I don't really remember, and then it pans over to this cocoon thing, and it has like this like gem or something on it, and it's like glowing and stuff, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like when, and then she said it's Adam.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Adam Warlock.
At first, to be really, I thought it was Black Adam, but I was like, this isn't DC.
No.
And then I was like, Adam, because then I remember that she is Kismet.
Yeah.
And then I was like, she's talking about him.
Yeah.
She's talking about Adam Warlock. And then I was like, mena.
Correct.
Because, I love me some Adam Warlock.
Which, we have some bad news for you, because I read an article that Kevin Feige, the producer of these movies, said that he is not going to appear in Infinity War or the sequel. But he should appear in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or else why would they, why would they even talk about it?
Yep. And I'm also wondering, with Adam Warlock, if they're going to do Infinity Watch.
You never know.
Because they've already introduced 3 of the other members of Infinity Watch.
It's possible.
Gamora, Drax, in Thanos.
I mean, I have heard that they have plans for the future after the Infinity War movies.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be in the future.
But we'll just have to see on how Thanos comes out on Infinity War.
Right.
Because depending upon how he comes out in that scenario,
Right.
well, if they'll come out with some kind of Infinity Watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be cool. I would enjoy to see Infinity Watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we just see, what is it, Pip the Troll?
Yeah.
I always thought that was a cool name.
And finally,
Last but not least.
Now, we saw a cameo from Stan Lee earlier in the movie where he's talking to the Watchers, which comic book fans would know who they are. They're people who don't control anything, but they just watch humans and watch these universes and kind of record it and all that. And we see him mention to the Watchers, and this time I played a FedEx worker, which alludes to Stan Lee's cameo in Civil War.
So now we know the reason for Stan Lee being in all these movies.
Yes, there was a fan theory stating that Stan Lee could be a Watcher, and now this movie. It could be whether they're saying that it's true, or it could be that them just having fun.
Hey, let me tell you something.
What's that?
That was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Yeah,
Because
Stan Lee's always a favorite.
well, no, I'm talking about just that scene. Because now I completely understand.
Yeah,
For 20 years, why he's been in all these movies.
yeah,
Because I knew he was he's the creator of Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
I figured that he was just in it because of that. But now we have proof that
Yeah,
it was for a real reason.
this gives a reason other than just him making
For
cameos.
the cool factor.
Like it gives a reason, like in the actual movie universe
The MCU.
for why he's in these movies. It's because he's a Watcher, or at least like a consultant to the Watchers.
and I love the part where it's close to the end of that bit.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there and he's talking to him, and they just turn around and walk off, and he's like, "Come back, I got more stories."
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny seeing Stan Lee and these Watchers. You don't even want to listen to what he's saying.
And he just gets up to us like, "Hey, wait, come back."
And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah, and then it's like, "Thank you, come back next time."
Yeah. Speaking of which, I hope you guys will like, comment, and subscribe to our video.
We would love to hear what you think and what we should talk about next.
That's right. See y'all later.